Hello, fellow Supermoms. Welcome to yet another episode of the Special Needs Supermom series. Today, another episode, again, of this Tackle Your Special Needs Supermom Burnout. Yet again, you might think, yes. And the reason is, well, I was going through this, down a slippery slope myself again. Thankfully, I know what triggers it and what I should do. Not that I always do that. But I think this is a really important episode if you are exhausted all the time. And you're like, well, I feel burnt out, but hello, I'm a mom. Or, you don't even need to be a special needs mom or a mom. If you have a certain type of personality, to feel burnt out. There can be many reasons, and that's what this episode is about, because it's really important to find out what causes you to feel worn out. Like I said, there can be many reasons. So in this episode, I will talk about a little bit about my story, what I did to get out of my burnout, and what my continuous triggers are that I really need to watch. But I will also talk about, what the reason can be, why you maybe feel really burnt out, and what you can do about it. Also, of course, why it is so important to find out what is causing you to feel this way. Like I said, you could be like, well, I'm a mom. Of course I don't have time. Of course I'm tired because lack of sleep, constant worrying, trying to please everybody. I already kind of mentioned several reasons. So, a little bit about myself, and I talked about this in previous podcasts, is that the first COVID year, I can't remember the date, I think I mentioned that as well, Supergirl was doing really, really, really bad. She needed to switch medication for juvenile arthritis. And of course, if you stop one, it's not like she is on an easy peasy painkiller. And if you stop one and start another one, sometimes it takes time to have an effect. And every time you hope for this magical new medication that will, within a week or 2 weeks, will, transform her life. I kind of could have known it doesn't work like that, because when she was first diagnosed with uveitis, it started all with finding out that she had an autoimmune disease on her eyes. And her prednisone worked wonders. But the moment they took her off or lowered the dose, it came back up. It flared back up immediately, really heavy. So they already knew, okay, there must be something else. And uveitis is kind of linked with juvenile arthritis, or uveitis, juvenile arthritis. Oh, those names. So they already were questioning, is there arthritis in the family, things like that. And we were like, yeah, for old people, but, not young people. Okay, my sister-in-law has a skin condition, Psoriasis, also an autoimmune disease, also linked, we found out. So they did a lot of tests. They first sent us to Rumi, did a lot of tests, and they found out, there was a joint here, a joint there. Anyway, I'm now diving into her medical history. And this is not what this podcast is about. Anyway, So we started on methotrexate, her first medication, and it took about, and they already warned us, it will take about 6 months before it really, really, really is, working. And the baseline is set and we can take her off prednisone. And it has been like that ever since. Every time she switched medication, they were like 6-7 months in, okay, this is not going well. We might need something else. And then on the last moment, almost to the end of the 7th month, finally, medication would work. So the first COVID summer, she was in so much pain. So much pain. It was awful. And everybody was at home. And of course, Supergirl is home quite often. But now, it was the first time in, I think really since I met my husband, well, maybe 1 or 2 years in between, that Superdad, military, was home as well. It kind of was a coincidence because normally he had a job in the field, so to speak. And now it was his first, he just started a new job as, I can't even remember what, a colonel, a major, whatever, at the Ministry of Defense. And they had to set an example. So everybody had to work from home. So for the first time ever, my husband was home 24/7. Wonder Boy was home 24/7. And he was having the best time of his life. First college year and no social things going on. And then Supergirl. And they're teens. So thankfully I didn't have toddlers. But she was in pain constantly and crying and sometimes just so desperate coming to me. I've got so much pain and I didn't know what to do. And because everybody was home, I was, even if I've got my own office, I'm quite, lucky to have my own office. Yes, they were in a different room and yes, there were 2 or 3 doors in between. But I was constantly wired. And of course, Supergirl, needed a lot of comfort as well. But even at the moment she was in a room doing her own thing, I was constantly tuned in, constantly worrying about her. And suddenly have all these other people to think about. That, at this military regime of, 10 a.m. coffee, 12 o'clock lunch. And I was like, what? I normally have no rhythm whatsoever. Anyway, because Supergirl was doing really bad, and thankfully, she was at a therapist. Kind of at the same time, she started new medication. She started seeing a new therapist, and we had a parent conversation, and just they wanted to know what kind of family we were, how me and my husband were, and they said, do you have the need for a little bit more guidance for yourself, how to deal with things. And that wasn't the case for Superdad, but that was the case for me. And my words exactly were like, yeah, I would really love more guidance because I need to know how I can make Supergirl happy. And I think that was kind of the red flag because I was so tired because I was only thinking with my mind, only with Supergirl. And literally had no time for myself anymore because I felt, I had to have coffee with my husband, had to make it nice and have nice breaks with my kids and lunch breaks and in between breaks and pleasing everybody. But even when everybody was in their own room, I was still tuned in to everybody and I was constantly worried about how Supergirl was feeling. Because I couldn't be happy if she was feeling like crap. So, all that. And I had my own business going on. I just launched this podcast. I'm also a board member of the Dutch Juvenile Arthritis Association. And I say yes to everybody and everything because I feel it's so important. And it, of course, course, it is important. But all those things, I was, how do you say that? Worn to the bone. I was knackered. And it wasn't until the therapist, I got into therapy, and even my husband said, relax. No, you don't have to clean out the dishwasher. No, you don't. Seriously, do your thing. I couldn't get out of it anymore. And I slowly felt, I had no happiness in me. And I normally, in my house, I'm the, like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, this ADHD happy character, always glass half full. It wasn't there anymore. I felt numb. And I was like this zombie on the couch in the evening. And I already have kind of this tendency in the evening that I'm really tired. And that's probably a combination of, after my car accident, I had less energy and things like that. And, I do a lot of shit during the day. So I go into hyper focus all day long. So in the evening, I'm tired. But this was a new kind of tired. There was this gray cloud in my head kind of tired. And I couldn't be happy. I couldn't do fun things. I couldn't see fun things anymore. So it was really good. I saw a therapist. I was shortly going to explain about my last burnout. And how many minutes are we in now? I will really wrap this up. Short story short, she helped me see what I was kind of doing, but also that I can't be responsible for how Supergirl is dealing with her disease. Of course, I can help her, and I still find this really hard. But in the end, everybody, first of all, Supergirl has to learn her own, find her own way. I can give her tools, but that's kind of it, And I was bugging her constantly because I was so worried about her. So our relationship was not going great because she was a full-out teenager, and here was this overbearing mom constantly checking in on her and opening her bedroom door every other minute. And, are you okay? Do you need something? And she was like, go away, leave me alone. And, besides on the moments she was really in pain and she just needed a hug and comfort, for the rest she was a typical teenager. But in the meantime, I also kept saying yes to everybody and trying to please everybody. And what I learned at therapy, I say yes to everybody. I felt I couldn't have a break for myself because, I had to please everybody in my house. I have to think about everybody else. And, I can think about myself when my kids leave the house. That kind of a mentality. And if it wasn't for the kids, I was helping other people. The Juvenile Arthritis Association, or thinking about my parents, or thinking about friends. And I had a friend that was not doing well, but I couldn't do it anymore. And I remember that she said I had to call her every day because she wasn't feeling well. And I was trying to explain to her that I couldn't. I was so tired. And my therapist said, stop. Right there. You are not responsible for her happiness. She has to figure that out herself. But she also learned and helped me realize that I am a chronic overplanner. And I always underestimate how much time everything costs me. Because she said, well, how much, I'm a copywriter, how much time does it take, to write a blog or line out the social media for a client for the coming month. I kind of thought I knew, but I didn't. So she gave me some great examples. She was like, you're kind of like this rubber band. And a rubber band, it can have a lot until you keep stretching it. You see those examples of this watermelon with a lot of rubber bands around it. Oh my gosh, how strong is a rubber band? It can even snap a melon. But also, those rubber bands snap as well. Because they're only stretched and they are not allowed to kind of recharge. So she said it's kind of the same. If you're constantly giving and not recharging, even if you're taking a bath, because that was my to-go thing. But when I was in the bath, I was searching help for my kids, thinking about my kids, asking if they wanted to have a chat, do a facial in the meantime with my daughter, writing emails for clients, still not relaxing. So she really, helped. And with her, I found out my trigger points. So nowadays, this really resulted in the Special Needs Supermom planner. To write things down, daily gratitude thingy, but also because I have a time schedule, a daily time schedule in my Special Needs Supermom planner. And then I write my to-do list, but I have to plan it in those hours. And it makes me realize, if it is doable or not, whatever is in my head. So it's actually, really helpful. And telling my story, you probably already heard a few reasons. So there was not one single reason I got into a burnout. Super goal doing really bad. That was just kind of the last straw, really. Kind of the last thing. So if you're really, you are burnt out, you feel burnt out, or you have a burnout, there's kind of a difference, because we can always feel a little bit burnt out, at the end of the day or at the end of a really busy week. But if you have a burnout, it is hard to think happiness, really. I think that's the biggest difference. You don't even have the energy to do fun things anymore, things you normally liked. You just want to sit and, I don't know, zombie out, really. Because the things that normally I really love to do, I couldn't be bothered. I couldn't find the energy, could hardly move. I think that's the biggest difference. So, when I talk about burnout or feeling burnt out, the reasons for that, of course, are most of the time the reason that you are getting a burnout in the end. The difference is when you are burnt out, you can bounce back. If you have a burnout, you often need help. Having said that, there can be many reasons that you have a burnout as a special needs mom, or when you're a regular mom, or not even have kids. And it's really important to find out what the reason or multiple reasons are, because if you don't tackle that, you're really you really need to tackle whatever is at the root of your podcast of your burnout, to get out of it, to help yourself, and to prevent it in the future. So possible reasons can be not being able to say no. And you have this feeling you have to say yes to everybody. And with that, you might work too much. Maybe you just started for yourself, but you also have a regular job. So you're kind of juggling two balls. But in the meantime, you didn't stop other activities. So you just added something extra to the workload. It can be that you simply don't have a lot of time for yourself, because you're in and out of the hospital, in and out of, going to therapists and whatnot, because your kid is not doing well. Most of the time, you have a lack of time. But what is the reason for that lack of time? And for not being able to say no. Why don't you say no? Do you feel guilty, or do you want to be accepted, or Is it for, outer expectations? Are you overcaring? I'm have to admit, I'm a typical mama bear. And there's this Dutch old old song, and it's really about, oh, if I could, I would put you in a little box and put the lid on, so I can protect you from harm. Oh, oh, I'm kind of like that. If I could, I would tackle and tackle all their problems and solve all their problems. But I can't, and it's not going to help them move forward really and handle the life and handle their disease or their special needs. So reasons can be, like I said, not being able to say no, and that can have several reasons. Working too much, not having time for yourself because you don't allow yourself a break, you don't think you deserve a break, you don't think you deserve some time for yourself. If your kid is doing really bad and physically sucks, but mentally they both suck, but if it goes downhill physically, but they mentally can't deal with it or not do well either, it's a whole new level of worrying. You might be, still trying to meet out expectations because the whole world thinks your kid should do this or you should do that kind of therapy, and you should just be more strict, and your family doesn't understand it. That can really trigger a lot of emotions, and you trying to fit in and please everybody, and with that cause a lot of tension within yourself, with your kid, at home. What could be possible solutions to the reason you feel burned out? Well, if you were like me and there's really this heavy cloud in your mind, and you can't see the happiness, can't even be bothered doing the things that you normally loved to do, I think it would be really wise to see a therapist, because they that my husband says that I shouldn't do blah blah blah. I know, but I will do it anyway. If a stranger tackles it without all their emotions, it's different level, and they can really sometimes, because they're a stranger and they're not attached, clearly see what's going on if you not even see it. Like I did with my chronic over planning and chronically trying to please everybody, chronically underestimating how much everything would cost. She helped me really stop thinking. Not easy. Easier said than done, really. I remember the first time she said, "Oh, do 15 minutes of nothing," and I'm like, "You're kidding me? I don't have time for that." And 15 minutes with just my thoughts going all over the place, but really in silence, in true silence, I believe you can really find your inner voice. And if you have been ignoring it for a long time, you often need some help to find it again, to find yourself again. Other things, therapist aside, things that can really help are journal prompts. I start my day each and every day with the 3 H's. How do I feel? How do I want to feel? And how can I get there? How can I do that? If I feel really tired, what can I do to get rid of that? If I, do I need to take a power nap? Do I need to do something fun for myself today? Do I need to not be with my family for an afternoon, do I need to say no to a client, or at least for that day? Things like that. Other questions you can ask yourself, especially if you are burnt out, or you feel burnt out or have a burnout, and the reason is because you just don't have time. There are ways you can find time. Maybe, I struggled with this in the beginning. If it's possible, if work is draining you, could you work less? Maybe stop that. Do something else. If it's not helping you and there's no flexibility. There's constant guilt when you have to go away, or go to a hospital appointment, or they basically say, that will cost you a holiday. Seriously, you don't need that toxic environment. So if it's possible, look at your work. Here's something I found really difficult. You could ask for help from your husband, from your kids, maybe a cleaner. I find it really hard to sit still, so I would be really tired because hubby is coming home later. It makes sense at the moment that I will make dinner. But even when he was at home, we fell into this really bad pattern that he would come in and, okay, what are we going to do for dinner? Seriously? You couldn't? And I would grumbly just prepare something. Well, I could have said, figure it out. I don't care. Make something. And even when I cooked, everybody was sitting at home, and then I walked the dog, and I did the cleaning, and I did that, because I kind of felt guilty to ask my kids to clean the table, because they should be able to relax, afterwards. And before dinner, they probably already were watching YouTube for 2 bloody hours. So, but I also felt guilty for my husband, because he worked all day. I bloody worked all day as well. Yet I felt guilty for asking, and not to disturb anything. I would just grumbly doing it myself. But my kids, they can walk the dog. Yes, they have a break, but I deserve a break as well. If you have an endless to-do list, I would say learn to plan realistically. That's why I use why I created the Special Needs Supermom planner. It helped me, first of all, I have a time schedule from the moment I get up till the time I go to bed, and I write everything I do. Thanks to my therapist, because I ignored those things, bringing the kids to therapy, grocery shopping, walking the dog, having lunch. All those things I didn't have in my daily schedule. But I was still doing that, and doing groceries and laundry easily 2 hours. And because it's now in my time schedule, my daily schedule, I can see it, and I see how much time I have left. And then I have my to-do list, and I write down, besides how much each tasks take. And with that, I can see if it's doable or not. So I don't feel guilty that I haven't completed my to-do list, because seeing the time and seeing how much time I have in my day, I can be like, seriously, I had to-do lists with enough tasks for at least a week, and I try to squeeze it in a day. So realistic planning really can help. Saying no. If you're busy, or you're finally sitting down and your mother-in-law calls, or your mom, and you're like, oh gosh, and your first reaction is, oh, I really don't want to. Don't. Just say, no, sorry, this is not a good time, or not even pick up your phone and call back when you are able to. And the same goes for, if you have a friend that asks for your help because of whatever reason, but you are already tired to the core and you have so much shit going on yourself, say no. It's their life. You are not responsible for their life. So, you can tell them, basically, find a therapist, or I'm really sorry, but I can't at the moment because I'm dealing with a lot of shit myself. And choose you, really. You are more important. Your own family is more important than everybody out of that circle. Quiet time. My day was planned back to back with things. And even my coffee break, I was like, I have to do something fun with my kids. I have to, in those 15 or 30 minutes, have to be maximum quality, great fun time. But during the day, I had no break for myself. And a break would be seriously just 15 minutes. Now I know now that it's way easier for me to plan some time for myself in the morning and not during the day, because I know my schedule, no matter the planning, always goes seriously tits up. So I have to. So that's why nowadays I plan some me time, just reading a book for 15 minutes in the morning. Quiet time is also, if you have younger kids, yes, they can obey that quiet time as well. It is great after lunch. It is great at the end of the day before you start cooking and everything. Have a quiet time. When they're toddlers, you can still have it. They can be in the room and you can have a time timer. And no, it might not work the first time. They have to train it. If they were thinking and they thought you were available 24/7, this is something you really have to train them in. But with a stopwatch or time timer, you can really, let them see, those minutes. You can play with your favorite Legos, or you can do this, blah, blah, in your room. Or you can watch Elsa for the oomph time. But you can't disturb me. Period. And really nowadays, if I have my door closed, because I always have my door open, door closed means they can't disturb me. And they know now. So, and this is something I really learned from a guest, one of my earliest guests, Laura Hernandez from Mama Systems. Google her. Because she has 11 kids and she was like, I have time for myself. And I'm like, but how? She created systems. And she let her kid help in the house. She said, with 11 kids, there's no way. She also hired help. So she had a babysitter to drive the kids to sport or to therapy. Because she said that driving in the car back and forth and waiting there, I can spend better. So she hired a babysitter for things like that. It never occurred to me. Brilliant solution. And why not hire a babysitter to pick up your groceries? Why not? And for me, it was hiring a cleaner. Then I fired a cleaner because I didn't like her. But, say no. Have quiet time. Ask for help. And make realistic plannings. Make realistic plans, really, for the day. So that was kind of my take on why it's really important to find out the reason for your burnout. Because if you don't tackle the reason, you can't really find a solution to move forward. If you are constantly available, but you don't think about that, you need to tackle that. If you're really tired because you let everybody disturb you all the time, maybe it's time to, say no more often and take off the notifications on your phone. Things like that. And if you can, and I think you should, ask for help. Yes, we're supermoms, but even Superman, didn't do it all by itself. That guy at bloody not Kryptonite. No, the Kryptonite was the thing that didn't. Anyway, every superhero out there has somebody that inspires him, helps him, does the stupid tasks for him, or gets him back on track. So, as a superhero, make sure you have your team on board. And the team is your family, but also your mindset and your schedule. So that was it for this episode of the Special Needs Supermom podcast. Tackle your Special Needs Supermom burnout. If you have a question after this podcast or have a great tip as well, send me a message. Respond to this podcast. Find me on Facebook or Instagram, Special Needs Supermom podcast. Really simple. I've got a private Facebook group for supermoms as well, where you can share your story and ask for help if you're at the moment feeling so tired. It's a private group. Only moms are allowed in. Special Needs Supermoms are allowed in. So if you go to Facebook and search for Special Needs Supermom or Special Needs Supermoms group, you will recognize the little doodle I always use for my social media. And join us. If you are a chronic overplanner and underestimate time, I can really recommend the Special Needs Supermom Planner. You can find it on my website, specialneedsupermom.com, or on Etsy. If you Google Special Needs Supermom and Planner, I've got a digital version and a printable version with 3 different layouts. And besides the daily schedule, with the hourly schedule, there's a health tracker in it that can help you, track your kids' health. When are there meltdowns? It might help you find whatever is triggering your kids' behavior or health issues. Of course, there's a mom reward charge because we should reward ourselves more often, and a ton of stuff as well. So go check out the Special Needs Supermom .com website or on Etsy. Find me on social media, and please like, share, rate this podcast if you find it useful, because this is really the only way that helps other fellow supermoms like you to find and recharge their superpowers as well. If you have a great idea, last thing, if you have a great idea or subject for a podcast, reach out as well on social media. Send me a private message or send a message via my website, and I will see if we can make an episode about that as well. Have a great day and take care of yourself before you save everybody else. Bye.